Second pirate video. The Nika fruit is exposed at the beginning. Chapter 46. New World. Within Four Emperors territory. Ghost Island. Kaido, who turned into a green dragon, was hovering in midair, his huge dragon head staring at the giant screen, and he kept murmuring. Five elders. Why did Ma Linfanduo become like this? At the same time, Jack, Jin and other members of the Beast Pirates also looked at this scene in confusion. Cake Island. Big Mom, who was still throwing cake into his mouth, looked up and stared at the giant screen. Peripheral vision. Big Mom stared at Luffy who entered Nika form. Sun God, Nika. Big Mom murmured, Sister, you said that the Sun God can bring warmth and light to the world again. I was stunned for a long time. Is it true? Sister. Holy shit. On a pirate ship that was sailing crazily on the calm sea, the usually calm red-haired man couldn't help but curse. Has the war begun? Did even the five elders take action? Jegolucia Sartan Saint. How could it be Saint Jegolucia Satan? The five elders don't want to go out in force, do they? Others don't know it, but the redhead knows it. The red-haired man stared at the giant screen in midair. It seems that I am moving faster, moving forward at full speed. Marine headquarters. Marlene is abundant. There are dark clouds all over, lightning and thunder, and it is no exaggeration to say that Ma Linfanduo is at the end of the world at this time. The wind was blowing. Nika the sun god. Pluton Rayleigh. Monkey D. Dragon. Saint Satan said continuously. Okay, if that's the case, then let's stay here. Having said that, Saint Satan is about to take action. The surviving marine soldiers held up their spears or weapons in their hands. No matter how exhausted they were, the pungent smell of blood around them made them have no choice but to fight for their lives. Take a step back, it's a cliff. They have no retreat. This is already the headquarters of Marine, Ma Linfanduo, the base camp of Marine. There is no way out. Then fight. And if it was so easy for the Straw Hats, Pluton Rayleigh and the leader of the Revolutionary Army to rescue Ace, where would they put the dignity of Marine? Wouldn't that be a loss of face? Are we about to start the real showdown? Everyone in the entire pirate world looked up and stared at the giant screen. Don't even dare to blink. If you miss such a big scene, you may never see it again in your life. It's about to begin. Are we going to decide the winner? Just under everyone's gaze. Visions abound. There were numerous and elite Marlins, and the peripheral soldiers who could withstand Conqueror's domineering force suddenly shouted, Fleet Admiral. 2 warships have rushed up. All of a sudden. The attention of everyone on the battlefield was attracted, and they were responded to by several loud noises. A tall figure walked out first. His whole body was wrapped in rock armor. With every step he took, the surrounding rocks, buildings, copper and iron gathered towards him, and his figure continued to enlarge. Boom. Boom. Giant. It's a giant. Some marine soldiers were scared out of their wits, but they did not retreat at all. Bang bang bang. Countless bullets were ejected from the barrel of the gun, but they did not leave the slightest trace on the giant body. Bullet. Warring States looked at the giant who was walking towards the square step by step, and squeezed out a few words from his mouth. Sure enough, at this time, everyone will come to join in the fun. It was already a difficult high-end game, but now there's another bullet. However, this is far from over. Behind Bullet, a giant walked out again. Momo Fruit Power User, Berndi Wald. I saw Walder put his hand on Bullet's body, and Bullet, who was already a giant, suddenly grew in size again. Step out. Even the entire Malinfanduo is shaking. Look. What's this? Is the world going to end? Giant, this is already 10 stories high. What kind of ability is this? Can one actually become huge? Momo Fruit. Ma Linfanduo, Saint Satan naturally knew Walder, but still murmured in disbelief. The Paramesha Momo Fruit can increase the size and speed of objects it touches hundreds of times, and you can also increase your own movement speed at will. But Saint Satan's pupils are infinitely enlarged. But you can't change the size of living things. What Saint Satan didn't expect was that Bullet's body did not become taller, but the armor surrounding Bullet was instantly enlarged hundreds of times. Momo Fruit plus Fusion Fruit. Even the body shape of the Elephant Master can be created without any accident. Fruit combination. Bug exists. So handsome, ha ha ha. Luffy in the Nika form looked up and down Bullet, his eyes shining. This armor is so handsome, isn't it? Say it. Luffy's figure has also grown infinitely. Just a few seconds later, another giant is formed. Nika giant form. Luffy, as a rubber fruit, can naturally enlarge his body. Suddenly, two giants with powerful combat power stood in front of the Straw Hats, and the entire Marin Island seemed a little small in front of them. Everyone in the pirate world looked up in shock, looking at the picture on the giant screen in horror. This has exceeded their imagination. Even the residents of some small islands can't help but feel uneasy. I'm afraid this can crush our island with just one kick. Marlene Many. Doflamingo looked at the scene in front of him and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Gia, wonderful, simply too wonderful. Although Brother Ming said this, his figure kept retreating. This lineup. Whoever falls in love with whomever. I'm afraid Ma Linfanduo is a bit unsustainable today. However, it was not only Doflamingo who retreated, but also Moria. The moment Luffy appeared and entered Nika's form, Moria found a place to hide. Then, Mariah was tortured terribly by Luffy. He was definitely treated as a toy by Nika Luffy. The hand is similar to an onion, like a skipping rope, spinning crazily in the air. He also crazily swallowed the shadow in his mouth. His body was even bigger than now, and he used one finger to ravage himself crazily. While ravaging, Nika Luffy laughed and said, "Grow onions, ha 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 ha, plant onions." Shadow. For Moria, this is a perfect shadow. I'm afraid it will take a lifetime to heal. But it's not over yet. Another figure boarded Malinduo and participated in the catwalk of this war. A tall and thin figure. Wearing a plum red shirt and blood red trousers, black leather shoes with gold rims on her feet, and a wide blood red cape. Wearing a blue rose around her neck, she held a slender bat-handled umbrella in her hand. Elegant, so elegant. As soon as the figure appeared in the video on the giant screen, everyone in the pirate world couldn't help but sigh. What a perfect image of a count. But what kind of existence is he? He was in Impel Down City at that time, and it seemed that he was torn out by Luffy from the bottom of Impel Down City. Some people don't know it, but of course some people do. 5 elders. Warring states. Crane. The eyes of the others could not help but shrink slightly, and their faces became increasingly ugly. This person. Valoric Redfield. Red Earl. Aloof Red. Red Earl. Warring states stared at the figure of the Red Earl and couldn't help but murmured, "How can this war end?" At this time, when Lien Long saw the figure of the Red Earl, Kakuzu couldn't help but twitched his mouth. Red Count. This is a real big shot. Extremely powerful. Just one person can keep up with Roger and the Whitebeard pirates. I think there are only 2 rivals in the world, Roger and Whitebeard. Even the Red Count's walking posture was extremely elegant. Under everyone's gaze, he walked step by step to Luffy's side and looked at the entire battlefield. It seems that he is looking for someone. Soon, the moment he saw Garp, the always elegant Red Earl couldn't help but be startled. Garp fell down. You know, in the entire marine, the Red Earl only recognizes Garp. In the eyes of the Red Earl, other people's strength is just like that. And this time the Red Earl came to Ma Linfanduo because he wanted to compete with Garp. Leadfield, are you here too? Rayleigh looked up and down at this old friend. So to speak, almost half of the people on the lower floors of Impel Down City are Rayleigh's old friends. The Red Count used the calmest voice and said the harshest words. After being imprisoned for so many years, Marine should be taught some lessons. You're old. Rayleigh looked at the Red Earl and couldn't help but sigh. How can I, a mere human being, withstand the erosion of time? The Red Earl looked at Rayleigh at the same time, his jealous expression fleeting. You think everyone is like you. Do you have such good luck? Rayleigh just chuckled twice and did not answer. Ah. The next second, the Red Count immediately made an extremely fanatical sound on the spot. He came to Brooke's side in an instant, with an extremely excited expression, even like a child. By J. Brooke, is that you? Is that you? The Red Earl stared at Brooke so hard that his eyes could even pass through Brooke's skull. Although Brooke has already lost his flesh and blood. However, the Red Earl still recognized him at a glance. Idol. Brooke. This is Red Earl's childhood idol. Even the Red Earl didn't expect that they could meet again today. At this moment, several more figures walked out from behind. Haisha Jinbei. Original Shichibukai crocodile. There are also a group of subordinates who should belong to Blackbeard. And now, or volunteer, or forced, they chose to side with the Straw Hat Pirates. Ordinary people in the pirate world can be said to be ashen-faced. They all stared at the giant screen in shock. He kept mumbling, "Marine is going to lose. Marine is going to lose. This kind of lineup can probably easily crush a Four Emperors force, right?" But now, Akainu and Kizaru are still in a coma after being beaten so badly that they have not regained consciousness. Unfortunately, no one seems to want to give this department a heavy blow. The Straw Hat crew's goal has been accomplished. Let's go. Luffy. Rayleigh on the side stared at Saint Satan not far away, looked at Luffy and said softly, "We have rescued Ace. This is the Marine headquarters after all, it is too dangerous." Hoo ho ho ho. While Rayleigh was speaking, Luffy had been forced to exit Nika form. He instantly became extremely old and was panting heavily. People around are already familiar with this scene. This is the sequelae of Luffy entering Nika form, and he can recover in a while. But where are Ace's seastone handcuffs? Luffy stared at Ace beside the dragon, focusing on the seastone handcuffs. See you. At this time, someone walked out of the crowd. The ding-gong with the 3 shape looks extremely fragile. Let me try. Crocodile's former subordinate, Mr. 3, walked out of the crowd of prisoners behind him. However, I haven't brought Mr. 3 close yet. Saint Satan said indifferently in midair, now that we are here, we can all be here. Suppress. Just hearing Saint Satan's soft drink, Mr. 3, who was walking towards Ace, felt like a big mountain was pressing down on him. It's hard to move an inch. Satan, you are still a little reluctant to be alone, right? Rayleigh steps out. In an instant, he arrived in front of Mr. 3, and a powerful aura came out. Relieve the pressure from Saint Satan for Mr. 3. And Saint Satan had no words. Next second, streams of blazing black lightning were generated around Sarton. A circular magic circle appeared under Sarton, with 5 numbers 5 surrounding the magic circle. Marlene is abundant. Everyone in the square stared at the 5 elders. Magician. Is Saint Satan a magician? What is this doing? Not just everyone at Marine headquarters. The entire pirate world stared at the giant screen in surprise. In the giant screen, Saint Satan has been wrapped in blazing black lightning, and the magic circle is getting bigger and bigger. On a pirate ship, the red-haired man looked up and stared at the giant screen, with a little cold sweat even breaking out on his forehead. There are really not many things that can make the 4 emperors afraid. Sabayati Islands. Holy place. In an office, the remaining 5 elders looked at each other and nodded slightly. The next second, bursts of black light flashed. There is no trace of the 5 people, they disappeared without a trace. Marine headquarters. Marlene many. Bursts of black and red light flashed, and 5 more figures appeared on the magic circle. One person was wearing a white robe, glasses, and a beard, holding a samurai sword in his hand. One person was wearing a dark red suit, no tie, blonde hair, a blonde beard, and a scar on his chest. One person was wearing a dark green suit, had a splayed beard, and had a Madara birthmark on his forehead. One person was wearing a dark blue suit, had long straight white hair, and a long beard. Teleportation array. Everyone in the pirate world couldn't help but exclaimed loudly. This is actually a teleportation array. Pluton Rayleigh. Red Count. Bullet. Even Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku stared at the scene in front of him, extremely shocked. 5 elders. Appearing at the same time. Let's fight quickly. Among them, the bald 5 elders, who was holding a long sword, lowered his head and looked around the crowd and said coldly, "Let's have a big purge today." Say it. The bald 5 elders rushed down. Take 1 step. The bald 5 elders' lower body instantly transformed into the limbs of a skeleton horse, while the upper body remained in the human centaur posture. Body type and pacifist no doubt. Fully 6 meters high. The whole body exudes a black atmosphere. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and couldn't help but marvel at such a weird creature. Centaur. What centaur? This is obviously a half-skeleton horse. Only Kaido from Onigashima raised his head and stared at the giant screen. Animal phantom species. The centaur rushed out and brandished his sword at the same time. In an instant, a cold sword energy came out. Hit the bullet. And how could bullet be so easy to hit, punching the bald five elders? Bang. A loud bang. The two attacks collided violently. The entire island with many marine species is shaking. However, this is not the end yet. Blonde five elders also stepped out. It instantly turned into a huge sandworm, wrapped in black smoke from the awakening of the animal system. Go straight towards Rayleigh, yelling as you go. Pluton Rayleigh, let me see what you were capable of when you were young. Ghost Island. Kaido. Staring at the video on the giant screen with red eyes, he kept muttering, another animal-type fantasy beast fruit. Marlene is abundant. Rayleigh is not used to blonde hair at all five elders. Use your right foot hard. The whole person ejected. In an instant, he arrived directly in front of the giant sandworm's head and swung his sword. The sword covered with armament and domineering is extremely sharp. Phew. A scarlet liquid spurted out. The head is split in two with the giant sandworm. Dead. Marlene is abundant. Everyone looked up at Rayleigh's figure, like a sword god. Who is the stronger sword master and the sword god who is familiar with Donghai? Everyone in the entire pirate world was also shocked to see such an awesome appearance. Received the lunch box in less than half a minute. Isn't this a bit too inferior? But the next second, the top of the giant sandworm's head grows, savagely, at an extremely fast speed. Just a few breaths. The head is in perfect condition. I'll cut it. Poof. The sandworm head falls to the ground again. Grow again. I'll cut again. I poof. I will grow longer. I'll cut it. I grow. The fight between Rayleigh and the giant sandworm was extremely strange. If it weren't for the dozens of sandworm heads covering the ground, it would have been as if the two had just fought. At the same time, Mustache Five Elders sighed. Well. Then, he also chose to take action. The moment his footsteps stepped out of the teleportation array, the body size has become extremely huge. Four fangs appear from the mouth. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he turned into a warthog with Madara spots on his body. Also surrounded by black flame clouds. Animal-type fruit awakens. Bang bang bang. In the square, the wild boar didn't care whether it was an enemy or a friend, howling while charging towards Luffy who was still in a weak state. Bang. Accompanied by a loud noise, the floor in the entire square shook several times. A huge body with the same shape as a wild boar appeared and punched the wild boar's head. The whole body is wrapped in armed domineering color. With the blessing of Momo fruit, not only the size but also the speed increased dozens of times. However, this is far from the limit. The speed and power are extremely strong. World Destroyer, Vardy's reputation is not in vain. Under the gaze of everyone, shockwaves were generated at the collision point between the two. Buildings hundreds of meters away collapsed. There were dense cracks on the floor under the two of them, and thick smoke rolled up. However, wait until the smoke clears. Everyone opened their eyes in surprise. In mint condition. The wild boar stood intact, not damaged at all, not even leaving any traces of injury. Looking back at World Destroyer. Iron Fist is a little purple. Everyone around the world who is watching the giant screen can't help but marvel. What a strong defense. Of course, except for one person in the crowd. Kaido, whose eyes had completely turned red at this time, turned into the form of a blue dragon. While soaring wantonly in the air, he yelled, another animal-type phantom beast. Just as the 3-5 elders were fighting the others. Go T5 elders. Not a word said. The whole person stepped lightly in midair. His face instantly turned into a bird. Then bird wings and claws grew. The body is huge, but the body shape is like a snake. There are still black smoke clouds wrapped around the body. Birds and beasts were entrenched in midair, opening their big mouths at Luffy below. In an instant, the raging flames rushed towards Luffy, trying to burn him to death. Luffy, on the other hand, had his hands on his legs, still recovering from the aftereffects of Nika form. Not far away, Zoro and Sanji are dealing with the Lieutenant General and Major General of the headquarters. There was no time to provide support. All I could do was stare at Luffy with wide eyes. A critical moment. Just when the flames were about to completely envelope Luffy, a figure stood in front of him. Black umbrella. Covered with armed color domineering. Standing in front of Luffy, flames sprayed on the black umbrella, but it had no effect. Wait for the bursts of flames to stop the attack. The Red Earl appeared in front of Luffy, but Luffy only saw his back. Red Earl, are you sure you want to take action? In the air. Bird Beast stared down at Red Earl and said coldly, Red Earl, do you know? Why didn't the government execute you? The Red Earl walked into the air step by step on moonwalk. He didn't say a word, just stared at the birds and animals. Seeing this, the bird and beast screamed into the sky, and slowly said, You claim to only be able to see Whitebeard and Roger, but do you know? Your threat is far less than them. Every sentence is heartbreaking. However, this is not the end yet. Besides, you are an old man now. What qualifications do you have to stand in front of me? Get out of my way. The Red Earl's expression remained unchanged. But hold the umbrella harder and harder. Step out again. The whole person disappeared from midair in an instant, and reappeared in front of the bird and beast. Swing out a sword. The birds and beasts screamed and tried to retreat. Old. So what if I'm old? Seeing this, the Red Earl couldn't help but taunted. Aren't you afraid of the umbrella in my hand? Ghost Island. Seeing this, Kaido couldn't help but raised his head to the sky and roared, Fire! Again, and again, and again, the animal-type phantom beast species has been awakened again. And at this moment, everyone in the world was staring at the giant screen. He murmured in shock. Hiss. Is this an animal platter place? First there was the skull centaur, then there was the giant sandworm, then there was the wild boar with 4 tusks, and now there's another bird and beast. Isn't the animal-type fantasy beast so rare? I'm ba ba ba. As soon as these words came out, the person who said these words was instantly drowned in saliva. Isn't the animal-type fantasy beast rare? Give me one. Dare I say it, this is something rarer than natural fruit. Everyone in the pirate world looked up and stared at Saint Satan who appeared first, and couldn't help but murmured in their hearts, No way, it's not another animal-type fantasy beast, is it? And the result naturally did not disappoint them. When Saint Satan saw 4 old guys taking action, he naturally couldn't be lazy. Take the same step. In an instant, the lower body turned into the shape of a spider, and the upper body took the shape of a bull's head. The body shape was also very huge. Ghost Island. Kaido seemed to have been greatly stimulated, his eyes were red, and he kept breathing heavily. Again, another awakened animal phantom species. Why not mine? Kaido's dream is to build a super fleet composed entirely of animal fruits. And now, 5 animal-type fantasy beast species appeared in one day. How can we keep Kaido from going crazy? Moving extremely fast. Luffy is on the verge of collapse. If this blow hits, Luffy definitely had a narrow escape from death. Not far away. In an instant, strong winds blew up, and just as a figure was about to save Luffy, a figure appeared in front of him. The whole body is exuding air conditioning. He even held a spear in his hand. Aokiji. Long looked at Aokiji and shouted angrily, Get out of here. But Aokiji had no intention of leaving at all. Instead, a dense number of small ice spears appeared behind him, and they all rushed towards the dragon. Sitar Saint is extremely fast. Except for Rayleigh, Dragon, and World Destroyer, no one can react at all. And at this time, they have no time to spare. In front of them are the top masters in the pirate world. If they are even the slightest bit cautious, I'm afraid I'm the one who will die. Luffy. The eyes of Zoro, Sanji, Nami and others suddenly shrank and they shouted towards Luffy who was in a weak form. And Luffy just stood there. The feeling of powerlessness spreads throughout the body. Don't call it a fight. It's hard to even move. He could only watch as this monster with a spider lower body and a bull head on the upper body rushed towards him. Ace, who was beside Luffy, pushed away Mr. 3 who was trying to unlock his handcuffs. The next second, he was standing in front of Luffy. Sabo, who was stopped by Sengoku not far away, could only watch helplessly as Saint Satan kept approaching. Luffy looked up and faced Ace. A face with a warm smile. Ace looked at Luffy with a smile, opened his arms, and wanted to exchange his life for his life to save his dearest brother, Luffy. The memories can't help but be pulled back to my childhood. No matter what mistakes he makes, Ace will stand in front of Luffy and protect him. So close. Only a few dozen meters away. Saint Satan is about to penetrate Ace's body. Ace. The weak Luffy shouted at Ace. No. At this moment, it seems that the world has stopped. Whether it's Marinduo or the world of pirates. A voice appeared in my heart at the same time. Ace, Roger's son, is he going to die here? Bang bang bang. At this moment, the air in front of Saint Satan shook violently. In an instant, a violent explosion occurred. Only a few cents. The body of Saint Satan, whose lower body was a spider and whose upper body was a bull's head, was blown hundreds of meters away. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, before anyone could react. The picture on the giant screen flashed violently. Moby emerges from the bottom of the ocean. A young figure holds a Kong Yunchi in his hand and stares at the battlefield with cold eyes. The picture comes out. The whole world is boiling. Everyone stared at the picture on the giant screen with their eyes wide open in fear. Young. Is this the white beard of youth? Almost everyone wiped their eyes vigorously and swallowed unconsciously, full of disbelief. White beard. The man who claims to be the most powerful man in the world has also regained his peak strength. Not just Pluton, Rayleigh. Marlene is abundant. The 5 elders are fighting. Warring states. Aokiji. Pluton. Bullet. Wait. Everyone present could not help but look at the white beard standing on the Moby in horror, with shock on their faces. Snap. Ma Linfin was thrown loudly, and a crisp slap sounded. Garp didn't know when he stood up from his fainting state. The moment he saw Whitebeard, he slapped Sengoku on the face. Garp, why are you slapping me? Sengoku was still in a daze, but was slapped back to reality by Garp. He was so angry that he smoked at Garp and yelled loudly. Garp dropped all the senbei in his mouth, and his eyes nearly burst out of their sockets. It hurts. This is actually real. Garp seemed to have discovered a new world, staring at the white beard at the front of the Moby, maybe if it weren't for the different camps. Garp had already rushed in front of Whitebeard. At the same time, also shocked were the 5 elders. Panic appeared on Ben's face, which held the winning ticket. The 5 elders did not expect that the Whitebeard pirates would support them so quickly, nor did they expect that Whitebeard would appear at his peak. Before Whitebeard appeared, they had a slight upper hand. And now, the peak Whitebeard has appeared. The upper hand. What a haha. Ace was standing in front of Luffy. He looked blankly at the familiar figures not far away, especially when he saw the young Whitebeard. 2 lines of tears couldn't help but flow down. Fire Fist. Ace. Captain of Whitebeard's 2nd Division. The super pirate, who had a bounty of hundreds of millions, stood like a child and cried bitterly. Dad, Marco, Luffy, everyone, why did you come to save me? Especially when Ace saw Luffy, who looked like he was 50 or 60 years old and extremely weak. He opened his mouth wide and cried loudly. Why did you come to save me? There are so many Marlins here. New World. Ghost Island. Kaido, who is still jealous because he didn't have the animal-type phantom fruit, seemed to freeze in midair the moment Whitebeard appeared on the screen. The huge longan is infinitely enlarged. He kept mumbling, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Looking at the familiar figures on the screen, Kaido's thoughts couldn't help but be drawn back to the Rocks pirates at that time. That's what Whitebeard looked like at that time, his strength was invincible. And at that time, he was still a dazed young man. Now they are 4 emperors. But, Whitebeard actually became younger. Cake Island. Whitebeard is so old and young now. Big Mom suddenly threw the cake in her mouth in the huge open-air palace. My delicious food. What about my delicious food? According to Big Mom's plan, he is to kill Whitebeard, the old man, and then take the opportunity to plunder the Fish Man Islands that are full of delicious food. But now, it has failed. It has completely failed. It's not just a failure. Straw Hat Luffy in the form of Sun God Nika, Rayleigh who has returned to his peak form, and Whitebeard who has returned to his peak form. Bullet escaped from the propulsion floor. Red count. World Destroyer Momo Fruit Power User, Vardy. His and Kaido's status seems to be in jeopardy. Mom, Kaido is Straw Hat Luffy's mentor. In the palace, the Candy Minister looked up at Big Mom, with the same sad look on his face. To know. There are so many territories in New World, who will be the 4 emperors? When a new person rises, the old man will definitely withdraw from the stage of history and become a stepping stone for the new person to become king. What should I do? The top brass of the entire Big Mom Pirates group are all looking sad. Calculate carefully. Whitebeard equals Ace's dad. Ace equals Luffy's brother. Yes, Whitebeard approximately equals Luffy's dad. Therefore, ruled out. Do the math again. Red hair equals Straw Hat Luffy's guide, and even blocked one of his own arms. Therefore, ruled out. Final reckoning. As we all know, Kaido equals Straw Hat Luffy's mentor. Therefore, ruled out. Finally, we came to the conclusion that Big Mom must suffer first and be bullied by the monkey family. Ah! A pirate ship is heading towards the Marin Island at a fast speed. The redheads opened their mouths wide and wiped their eyes in disbelief with the same movement. What is going on? Young Whitebeard at his peak. A Pluton Rayleigh who has returned to his peak fighting strength is not enough. Now here comes another Whitebeard who has regained his peak fighting power. Doesn't this allow them young people to hang out? Captain, are we still going to Marine Fanduo? The fat green man holding a huge chicken leg in his hand asked. I feel like something is going to happen to Marine. Ha 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 ha, and those 5 elders. Jesus Bu couldn't help but laughed. Look at my son, he is also a man who broke into Marine headquarters and fought against the 5 elders. We're going even more. After the shock, the red-haired man regained his senses again. This battle is enough here, it can't go any further. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but look at the red hair. Don't understand, but respect. This is the captain's order. Others don't know, but the red-haired person knows very well. Marine. The strength of world government is far from that simple. Knights of God. I am. Government. The world's chief scientist Vegapunk. There are even some that even redheads don't know exist. Sabayati Islands. Holy place. In a huge palace. I am was sitting on the throne, and couldn't help but be a little shocked when he saw Whitebeard regaining his peak strength. The next second, stand up from the throne immediately. Just a moment. I am sat down again and looked up at the giant screen. As if thinking about something. Marlene Many. Under the gaze of everyone, Whitebeard leapt high from the Mobi. A sharp jump. Then he came to Ace, holding Kong Yunchi tightly in his hand. Seeing the 5 elders entering the fruit awakening form, they couldn't help laughing and said, Gu la 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 la, let us be your opponents. Then, an even more invincible conqueror's domineering energy poured out from Whitebeard's body. Another fatal blow to the already dilapidated Malinfanduo. At the same time, Marco, Josie, Beasta, wait. Rush into the battlefield together. The entire battlefield was clearly divided into 2 camps. Eula la la la. Whitebeard stood in the center of the battlefield, holding Kong Yunchi tightly in his hand, and laughed loudly. Warring states, it seems that you will be completely defeated today. A complete failure. Sengoku looked directly at Whitebeard. Warring states couldn't help but think about this tit-for-tat existence for a lifetime, and became increasingly angry. MD. Why? Whitebeard is getting younger and younger as he lives longer. And he is getting older and older. It's really irritating to see people compare to each other. Before Warring States could speak, Whitebeard raised the Kong Yunchi in his hand and pointed directly at the 5 old men who had entered the fantasy beast species, 5 elders. Come on. Let me see your current strength. Say it. Whitebeard held the Kong Yunchi in his hand and waved it forward with all his strength. Moment. The entire battlefield has undergone drastic changes. Dark clouds are gathering. Lightning and thunder. The whole building is filled with so many trees that even the air is filled with an extremely depressing atmosphere. Bang bang bang. Next second, the air began to tremble and vibrate violently until it exploded. The entire Mall Linfanduo building was shaking violently. The turbulent sea around them became even more turbulent, rolling up waves of tens of meters and rushing straight into Mall Linduo. Even the sky is crumbling. Pirate world. Everyone stared at the giant screen, everyone was dumbfounded. Whitebeard. Those with the ability to shake fruits. The most powerful being in the world. This power is enough to destroy heaven and earth. Look, the floors of Malin's many buildings are starting to shatter, and the buildings are shaking violently. Tsunami, that's a big quarrel. What kind of power is this? It can cause earthquakes, split the sea, create tsunamis tens of meters high, and even make the sky shake. Among them, some people kept muttering, 5 elders. Are those 5 old men with animal awakening abilities the 5 elders? Could it be a celestial dragon? Every time, the impact of the pictures on the giant screen was too great, enough to make these people crazy and shocked. Marlene is abundant. In the battlefield. Boom boom boom. Under Whitebeard's blow, the floor shook and the building collapsed. Run quickly. It's the end of the world. Ma Linfanduo will be destroyed. Around them, some Marines could no longer bear the pressure. They threw away their weapons and jumped into the turbulent sea. The sea is dangerous. But now, I am afraid that the most dangerous place is Ma Linfan. In fact, it's not the fault of these Marines. No matter how elite they are, they still can't survive the shock of 5 conquerors. That's 5 conquerors. The most powerful man in the world, Whitebeard. Straw Hat Luffy. Pluton Rayleigh. Bullet. Red Count. Normally, any existence with conquerors' domineering power would be impossible for them to encounter in this life, but now, there are 5 of them in Ma Linfan alone. And they are in the same camp. Release 5 conquerors' domineering energy at the same time. It's no exaggeration. At this time, even the lieutenant general can feel the tremendous pressure. The whole world, everyone looking at the pictures on the giant screen, held their breath. Tsunami, look, a big tsunami is coming. Marin is going to be overwhelmed. Being an enemy of Whitebeard in his prime is really digging your own grave. Marlene is abundant. Aokiji. Sengoku, who is always known for his calmness, now had beads of blood oozing out of his forehead, and his face became even more ugly. Originally, Marine's plan was to use Ace to lure Whitebeard. No better. Also able to execute Ace. If things go well, I'm afraid even Whitebeard will die here. But now, let alone executing Ace, even keeping Ma Linduo has become a luxury. There were broken walls and ruins everywhere, pools of blood everywhere, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. Aokiji heard this and nodded slightly. His right foot hit the ground quickly and was in midair the next second. Open your hands. Moment. Biting cold air was released from Aokiji's arms. Ice Age. Following the small water drops that were about to fall on Malin's many floors, the entire tsunami quickly turned into 2 large ice sculptures under the gaze of everyone. Wrapped in the whole Marin complex. It's like it's natural. So strong. General Aokiji is so strong. Everyone in the pirate world looked up at the huge ice sculpture of tens of meters, and were so surprised that they couldn't speak for a while. For these ordinary people, this level of strength is almost the same as that of a god. What happened? In an inconspicuous pit, Marine General Akainu had just woken up from a coma. Previously, Akainu was punched into a deep pit by Luffy in Nika form. I fainted on the spot. It took several hours for Akainu to wake up from his coma. The whole person was in an extremely embarrassed state, and the elegant general's cloak was covered in blood. It can be said to be a bloody blow. Several front teeth were broken. Akainu stood up unsteadily, struggled to open his eyes and looked at the large ice sculptures around him. Ice Age. I traveled through it. Then, Akainu looked into the air. Skeleton Centaur. The lower body is a spider and the upper body is a monster with a bull's head. Giant bird monster. Huge boar. Is this Jurassic? Akainu hit himself on the head several times, trying to wake himself up. Then, Akainu finally saw a figure that was both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Whitebeard. Akainu stared at Whitebeard not far away and murmured, "How come Whitebeard has become younger?" Next second, Akainu clenched his fists, kicked his feet fiercely, and rushed out with elements all over his body. Go straight to the Whitebeard standing in the center holding Kong Yunchi. He was still yelling, "Implement absolute justice." Bang! A few breaths. Only a loud noise was heard, and a figure wailed. Pirate world. Everywhere. Almost at the same time, without exception, everyone said in surprise, "You guys, did you see a figure just now?" I think I saw it. It seemed like a figure rushed in front of Whitebeard, and was knocked away by Whitebeard's punch. Hey, which unknown little guy dares to challenge Whitebeard? Afterwards, the screen kept focusing. Until the ice wall on the left, there is a hanging one. Akainu. Marine General Akainu. Half of his body was trapped in the ice wall, and the corners of his mouth were covered with blood. He fainted again. Hiss. It's Marine General Akainu. Killed instantly. Again, I was shot again. I don't know when or where, a voice came from the crowd. Why Why do you feel that General Akainu is a little weak? Headquarters. Marlene Many. After finishing Akainu casually, Whitebeard looked into a dark corner and shouted in a low voice. Marshal D. Teach, come out, don't stay in the dark. For a while, everyone followed Whitebeard's gaze. At the same time, the giant screen also began to focus, and soon, a figure appeared on the screen. Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard appeared from the darkness with a smile and walked towards the center of the battlefield step by step. Dad, you have become younger. I am so happy. Shameless. This Blackbeard is so shameless. After several videos about Blackbeard were played, almost everyone in the entire pirate world did not have a good impression of Blackbeard. Careerist. This never seems to be a complimentary word. The center of the battlefield. Whitebeard stared at Blackbeard coldly. The culprit who had been hiding on his ship for decades, killed his beloved son Saki, and almost killed Ace. But that's not the time for Whitebeard's fury. Behind him, 4 of Wu Yangyang's imprisoned prisoners rushed out. The King of Evil, Avaro Pizarro. Zan Yu Hunter, Caitlin Diame. Huge Battleship, San Juan Wolf. Big Wine, Basque Chote. They are the 4 great guards of Impel Down City of the Blackbeard pirates that were exposed in the previous video. Blackbeard. Marshal D. Teach. Just, it's him. The 4 of them stared evilly at Teach not far away. We were in Pushing City at the time. Straw Hat Luffy naturally saw the introduction of the Blackbeard pirates, and after knowing that they were members of the Blackbeard pirates. There are no words at all, let alone indiscernible. Give these 4 people a beating. While beating him up, he was still cursing. The Blackbeard pirates, right? Blackbeard, right. It's just you, right? Let's see if I can beat you to death. Luffy didn't even know the names of these 4 people, he just remembered their looks. If they hadn't confessed their mistake crazily and promised that they didn't know Blackbeard at all, they might have died in Impel Down. Brothers, kill. After the 4 of them had witnessed the previous matches in the peak competition, they knew clearly that with their strength, if they did not express their loyalty quickly, they would die without knowing how they would die. The 4 of them rushed towards Blackbeard with their weapons in hand. Blackbeard, who was still laughing maniacally, saw this, his pupils shrank sharply, his expression was cold and bloodthirsty. Then, he looked at the 5 elders in the sky. Blackbeard knows better. He, Blackbeard, and Marshal D. Teach, whether they live or die today, they probably depend on the 5 elders in the sky. Isn't that a member of the Blackbeard pirates? Why are they all rushing towards Blackbeard? Yeah. Also, have you noticed that Blackbeard is actually on Marine's side? Does Marine want to keep Blackbeard? Looking at the picture on the giant screen, everyone in the entire pirate world could not help but guess. On the giant screen. In video. Marlene is abundant. Blackbeard stood there, staring coldly at the 4 people rushing toward him. A powerful momentum swept out from Blackbeard's body, completely covering Basque Chote and others. Again, it's Conqueror's dominance again. In this battle, Conqueror's hockey is just the ticket. Then, Blackbeard clenched his fists, and an endless dark aura appeared behind him, even covering Blackbeard. Next second, dark black stagnant water spread rapidly from Blackbeard's feet. The bodies of Basque Chote and the 4 others suddenly froze. Based on their years of combat experience, they could already feel the danger hidden in them. However, the arrow is on the string and must be fired. Basque Chote and others could only bite the bullet and continue to rush towards Blackbeard. Soon, the stagnant water covering the ground completely enveloped the 4 of them, and they could clearly feel the loss of their own power. Especially Basque Chote. Basque Chote sobered up instantly, looked down at his arms, and murmured in shock, where is my ability? However, there is no time for Basque Chote and others to think. Blackbeard's right hand clenched violently. Basque Chote and others seemed to be affected by a strong gravitational force, like uncontrolled puppets, coming to Blackbeard. Thief, ha 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 ha. Looking at the drunkard, Basque Chote in front of him, Blackbeard laughed wildly. Basque Chote, you took the initiative to provoke me, so don't blame me. Bang. Punch out. Blackbeard didn't hesitate and penetrated Basque Chote's body completely. A bloody hole appeared on Basque Chote's chest. Pirate world. Everyone stared at the picture on the giant screen in surprise. I couldn't help but murmured. Just kill him like this. Is it so cruel? Kill with one move. Not just the pirate world. Marlene is abundant. Everyone stared at Blackbeard in surprise, especially the 5 elders not far away. Ha 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 ha, thief, let you see the power of the dark fruit. Blackbeard laughed arrogantly. In full view of the public. Baskchote quickly ran out of life. A devil fruit appeared in Blackbeard's palm. Devil fruit. Juju fruit. The moment the devil fruit appeared, the whole world was shocked. The 5 elders looked at Blackbeard in surprise, but they quickly recovered and murmured. The fruit of darkness can make people with abilities lose their abilities. Can you actually plunder devil fruits? Even Whitebeard stood there, his eyes slightly startled, and he murmured in his heart, Teach, is this the fruit you must get after dormant for decades and would rather kill Thatch? The pirate world is shocked. Especially 4 emperors, Kaido. Kaido looked up and stared at the giant screen, his whole pupils trembling. Devil fruit. You can actually plunder devil fruit. My animal fruit army. My dream. Dark fruit. Lousy must get it. Teach, is this your ambition? Red-haired Shanks looked up and stared at the giant screen. This is the absolute nemesis of devil fruit. It is indeed worth spending so many years on it. Boss, we'll arrive at Mal Linfanduo just ahead. The whole pirate world. Without exception, everyone stared at the giant screen in shock with their eyes wide open. Devil fruit. Is that a devil fruit? Can you get that devil fruit by killing someone? If this was obtained by the world government or the forces of the 4 emperors, I'm afraid all the ability users would be under control, right? Marlene is abundant. The remaining 3 people all jumped up and ran away. They can already clearly feel that all their abilities have disappeared, as if they were wearing sea-stone handcuffs. So scary. At the same time, Blackbeard looked up at the 5 elders not far away. He threw out the juju fruit in his hand. According to common sense, Blackbeard, who has always been tolerant and good at dormant ambitions, has no need to expose his abilities to the whole world in public. Once such a powerful force is exposed, there will be no surprise, Blackbeard will become the target of public criticism. Marine. Government. Kaido. Big Mom. Even all the forces in the pirate world want to get Blackbeard's ability. This is an invincible force that can be armed and even rival the power of the government. But now Blackbeard has no choice. Whitebeard. Whitebeard in his prime. Squeezing him to death would be as easy as squeezing a chicken to death. Shock fruit plus peak state. Whitebeard's blow can even destroy an island. Straw Hat Luffy. Sun God Nika form. An extremely difficult existence. Previously, the giant screen revealed that he was causing trouble in the promotion process, and Marine directly banned his Shichibukai identity. You can almost say that Blackbeard has provoked all the forces. At present, we must find a backer. And it's a backer who can keep him. Not far away, the 5 elders in animal form looked away from the juju fruit, and nodded after looking at each other. Ha 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 ha. Blackbeard couldn't help laughing when he saw this. Gu la 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 la, teach. Whitebeard stepped forward, holding up the cloud cutter in his hand and pointing directly at Blackbeard. It's time to end it, teach. Whitebeard stared at Blackbeard. Marco, Josie, Beasta and all other members of the Whitebeard camp came to the battlefield. But Blackbeard just stood there. Saint Satan, whose lower body was a spider and whose upper body was a bull's head, stepped out and stood in front of Blackbeard in the next second. Satan, are you sure? Whitebeard's eyes became colder and he said in a deep voice, are you going to protect Teach at any cost? Whitebeard, this is Marin Fanduo. Saint Satan did not answer directly, but said sternly, get out of here. This is the current situation. The 5 elders also know that it seems difficult to keep them. Marine. Under the intimidation of several conquerors' domineering forces, Marine soldiers fell everywhere. Incompetent Lieutenant General Marine, Major General. The fainted General Kizaru. General Akainu is completely fainted and doesn't know if he can wake up. Marine Hero Garp pretending to be out of breath. The helpless Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Marine General Aokiji already wants to give up. And Shichibukai, who hasn't made any moves yet and is watching the show silently, Brother Ming, Empress, Moria. And the 5 elders including Saint Sarton. However, let's take a look at Straw Hat Luffy's lineup. The Sun God Nika Luffy is about to regain his strength. Pluton Rayleigh in peak form. Revolutionary Army Leader Monkey D. Dragon. Bullet. Red Count. World Destroyer, Vardy. Whitebeard at his peak. Marco, Josie, Beasta, Jinbei, Crocodile and so on. Marine does have a slight disadvantage, and there are many Marines here. Once the fight starts, the entire island may be destroyed, hundreds of thousands of Marine elites will sink to the bottom of the sea, and Marine may not be able to recover by then. Today, Teach must die. Whitebeard held Kong Yunchi with both hands, waved it vigorously, and said in a deep voice. Saint Satan just snorted coldly. The spider's lower limbs instantly extended and went straight towards Whitebeard. The infected floors along the way were all burning with black smoke. Extremely poisonous. It can corrode all hard floors. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard laughed. Kong Yunchi swung forward with all his strength, and couldn't help laughing. Is this the power of youth? Ah! Next second, a scream was heard, and Saint Satan's lower limbs were cut off instantly. Broken. Did it just cut off with just one move? For a moment, everyone in the pirate world stared blankly at the giant screen. Saint. He should have a very high status in Marine, even higher than Fleet Admiral Sengoku. One move. Was he defeated by Whitebeard in one move? Everyone couldn't help but take a breath and looked up at the young Whitebeard. It seemed that they could see the glorious strength of Whitebeard on the Rock's pirate ship. Marlene is abundant. Look. Behind Whitebeard, Marco, Josie and others opened their eyes in horror. Healed. It actually healed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Saint Satan's lower limbs healed quickly. Just a few breaths. Saint Satan has been completely healed. Whitebeard was not surprised when he saw this. Instead, he laughed heartily. Gu la la la, they are indeed a bunch of old immortals. Say it. Whitebeard has not stopped attacking. In full view. Whitebeard thrust Kong Yunchi into the ground, his eyes extremely firm. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the picture on the giant screen. Look. What is Whitebeard doing? Yes. Aren't you going to use your ultimate move? Marlene is abundant. Bang bang bang. Whitebeard's fists flew out fiercely, hitting the surrounding air heavily. All around. The air is like transparent glass, with dense cracks appearing. Not only that, the surrounding air was even more so, with violent explosions happening everywhere. Even not far away, dense cracks appeared on the ice wall that was frozen by Aokiji. Zizizika. Everyone looked around in horror as the ice wall began to shatter. Falling onto the battlefield. The raging tsunami became more violent and noisy, seeming to swallow up the entire Malinfandu. Aokiji, who had just landed on the ground, jumped up high. This time, just take a rest. However, before Aokiji could take action, Rayleigh dodged and came to Aokiji, holding the long sword in his hand and rushing towards Aokiji. In desperation. Great changes in the world. Dark clouds are gathering. The five elders, without exception, all rushed towards Whitebeard, trying to capture him. The merciless tsunami all hit Malinfandu. Shake. The entire Malinfanduo began to shake violently. All the pools of blood filled with the smell of blood were washed away, and buildings collapsed one after another. Almost everyone is staring at the giant screen. Shock. Everyone is shocked. Is this the strength of the world's strongest man? Just when everyone was shocked, the five elders had already rushed in front of Whitebeard. Whitebeard stands in the center of the battlefield, with five monsters in front of him. Like a god. Stand tall and straight. Whitebeard stood there without any retreat. Completely ignoring the five monsters in front of me. To know. These five monsters are the five elders. Their power can be said to be inferior to one person and superior to 10,000 people. And the strength is naturally terrifyingly strong. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard stared at the five monsters in front of him and laughed heartily. Let's go together. Say it. Whitebeard punched out. Waves of shock waves were generated in the air, and wherever they went, they were split into two. Shocking fruit. Bang bang bang. In addition to the shock wave, the air around five elders also exploded violently. A moment. The five elders were unable to resist for a moment and all took a few steps back. Worldwide. While looking at the giant screen, Whitebeard directly knocked back all five of them with one punch. Holy shit. Holy shit. Everyone couldn't help but marvel. Is this the strength of Whitebeard? Who are those five old men? Yeah, you look so weak. If the 5 elders heard this, they would be furious. Is it wrong to not be able to beat Whitebeard? This is the strongest man in the world. If he can't beat Whitebeard, will he still be sprayed? Marlene is abundant. Hiss. Everyone couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Without exception. Everyone can feel Whitebeard's strength at his peak. Garp, who is not far away, looked a little lonely. Then, Garp can also compete with Whitebeard at his peak. And now, Whitebeard has regained his peak strength, but Garp is old and can already feel powerless. Comparing one person to another is really annoying. The one who is more frightened at this time must be Blackbeard. Marshall D. Teach. Looking at the war god like Whitebeard in horror. 5 elders. The famous 5 elders can't help but fight. For a moment, Whitebeard stepped forward. At the same time, Straw Hat Luffy, Pluton Rayleigh, Bullet and others stepped out at the same time to face the government and Marine. Hiss. Are you going to take action? I'm afraid Marine will really lose this time. Yes. This headquarters probably won't be able to handle it this time. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and held their breath. Just then, a voice spread throughout the world. Give me some face and end this battle. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and said in shock. Give me some face. Who is this? This is the situation now. How can I still give you face? Is that possible? I'm afraid it won't work even if Jesus comes. Who says it's not? The current scene. 5 elders. Whitebeard. Luffy in the form of sun god Nika. Pluton Rayleigh and so on. Who can save face? Under the gaze of everyone. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but stare at the giant screen, wanting to know who said this ignorant person. Soon, the picture on the giant screen keeps focusing. A pirate ship appeared in a port full of Marines, and several characters flashed on the giant screen. The first person to bear the brunt is naturally, he has red hair, 3 scars on his left eye, wearing a long black cloak, and carrying the famous sword, Griffin, on his waist. All of a sudden, everyone in the pirate world couldn't help but blurt out, Shanks. Is it the redhead Shanks? Another 4 emperors is here again. Hiss. Well guys, a bigger problem has arisen. Redhead Shanks. The reward is 4,048.9 million berries. One of the 4 emperors of the sea. Which camp will he stand on? New World. Ghost Island. Kaido took a big gulp of strong liquor into his mouth and stared up at the giant screen. Especially the scene with red hair. Shanks, whose side will you be on? Are you allied with the Whitebeard pirates? New World. Cake Island. Big Mom also raised his head and stared at the giant screen. The scene changed too quickly. If the red hair sides with the white group, I'm afraid the situation will be one-sided, right? The Whitebeard pirates, the red-haired pirates, and Straw Hat Luffy. I'm afraid, where is the place for Kaido and Big Mom in the New World? Marlene is abundant. We are also concerned about the positioning of red-haired Shanks. People from both camps looked at the red-haired pirates who landed in the square. Shanks walked towards the side of the square step by step. All of a sudden, a 3-party situation formed on the entire battlefield. Shanks looked around the 2 lineups and slowly said, give me some face and let this battle end here. Moment. An extremely powerful conqueror's domineering force was released from Shanks' body, once again shocking the huge Malinfan duo. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen, full of surprise, and kept muttering, Shanks, which camp did you choose? No. Does Shanks want to stop this war? All of a sudden, everyone looked up and stared at the giant screen. The direction of this situation was becoming more and more confusing. Marlene is abundant. On the battlefield, the 5 elders looked at each other and didn't immediately refute Shanks. Warring States, on the other hand, stood there without saying a word. With the 5 elders present, Warring States naturally had no right to speak. On the other hand, Whitebeard also looked at Shanks without saying a word. Seeing that both sides were silent, Shanks said to himself, this battle has developed here. Too many people have died. It should be over. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and murmured, it should be over. It seems like it should be over. There are ruins everywhere. There are corpses everywhere. There are pools of blood everywhere. The smell of blood is so pungent that it can be smelled through the giant screen. Whitebeard's cold gaze stayed on Blackbeard's body for a long time. According to Whitebeard's original plan, he wanted to kill Blackbeard in this battle. But Whitebeard also clearly knows the capabilities behind world government. 5 elders is not the domain of the world government. What Whitebeard fears most is that if more world governments join the battlefield, it will definitely be the heaviest blow to Whitebeard's camp. Whitebeard stands in the center of the battlefield, looking directly at the world government. But at this moment, the one who has the hardest time accepting this outcome should be the world government. The soldiers fainted and died. Ma Linfanduo was turned into ruins. Marine's morale and majesty were even worse than before. The most important thing is, Ace was also rescued. But now that Shanks has entered the scene, if the world government does not agree, if Shanks joins Whitebeard's camp again, then they will be completely defeated. And just when the 5 elders and others were unable to make a decision, a voice with obviously suppressed anger appeared in their minds. Get back here, everyone. Several days have passed since the war on top. The pattern on the sea has also undergone earth-shaking changes. Marlene's many reconstructions. Shichibukai was deposed. The 5th Emperor of the Sea, Straw Hat Luffy ascends the throne. And the giant screen seemed to return to peace along with the world. I don't know who it is. Suddenly someone in the crowd shouted, "Video, watch it, a new video has started." Under the gaze of everyone, a line of black subtitles appeared on the giant screen. The second in command of the Revolutionary Army. A supernova with 1 kick. A light speed general comparable to the 4 emperors. As soon as the subtitles come out, it caused a lot of discussion in the pirate world. The second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Among them, the most discussed area is in the territory of the Revolutionary Army. Sob. Second sister-in-law. The others looked up at the giant screen, then looked down at the dragon, their minds filled with questions. Second in command. Does our Revolutionary Army have a second in command? How come we don't know? Who is this second in command? However, the last few words in the subtitles seem to reveal the identity of this second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Throughout the pirate world, the controversy over the second in command of the Revolutionary Army is intensifying. Kick a supernova. I think I know who it is. No way, no way. It can't be General Kizaru, right? Taking fish. The second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Why is there so much criticism about General Kizaru? Yes, I obviously feel that General Kizaru is very dedicated and the most righteous among the generals. Along with the discussion and speculation in the pirate world, the picture on the giant screen began to flicker. The various forces on the Grand Line are complicated, and sending undercover agents to each other is nothing new. This era belongs to the careerists who are advancing one after another, and it also belongs to the espionage workers who are free from the shadows. Intelligence worker. Sending undercover agents to each other. Is it possible that Kizaru is an undercover agent planted by the Revolutionary Army and Marine? Isn't it possible? As the general and undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army. This is truly shocking. If the forces of the Revolutionary Army have penetrated into Marine, and it is at the level of a general, it seems that Marine, the world government will be defeated. The tyrant bear who abandoned himself. Silent Krasen. CP9 has been lurking for many years. Drake deep in the enemy camp. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen, full of disbelief, and even murmured unconsciously. Undercover. Tyrant bear. Shichibukai tyrant bear. Drake, isn't he a pirate? Are these people actually undercover? This is really unacceptable. Marine headquarters. Many marine buildings are being repaired and new buildings are being rebuilt. Warring States was sitting casually on the construction site, shirtless, looking up at the figure of Krasen that suddenly appeared on the giant screen, and couldn't help but sigh. After a while. Garp, actually this is pretty good. What I have been holding on to for half my life feels like it is slowly losing its meaning. Garp was slightly startled. Holding 2 piles of bricks, he walked towards the construction site step by step, and could only comfort Warring States softly. Warring States, this is not your fault. If I had given up my identity as Fleet Admiral and saved Klassen, would I regret it so much today? It's a pity that there are so many ifs. And Garp did not answer Sengoku's question. The video on the giant screen was still playing, but Sengoku just stood up slowly, put his cloak symbolizing Fleet Admiral on the floor, and walked towards the port. If you want to defeat your opponent, Sending an undercover agent to get through is undoubtedly the most efficient way. And in this era of spies disappearing, there is one person who is often mentioned by everyone, and that is Marine's current General Porosalino, codenamed Kizaru. The entire pirate world. Look, I guessed it right. It must be General Kizaru. One kick and a supernova. You don't need to guess to know it's General Kizaru. Who says it's not? Even a fool knows it's General Kizaru. At this time, there were also several suspicious voices in the crowd. It can't be that General Kizaru is an undercover agent, right? Along with the criticism from everyone in the pirate world, the giant screen continued to flicker. As the highest combat unit of Marine, the general always practices his own justice and tries to leave something behind in the torrent of the times. But Kizaru is the only exception. Speaking of Kizaru, the most impressive thing is, the special effects are full, but I can't immune to Death's attack. A laid-back attitude that doesn't care about anything. Even Kizaru's concept of justice is extremely unclear and ambiguous. He released the water several times when encountering the Straw Hat Pirates. Marine Headquarters. Kizaru looked up at the introduction about himself on the giant screen, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Hiss. Hiss. The picture comes out. Everyone in the pirate world couldn't help but hold their chins and stare at the picture of Kizaru on the giant screen, looking like they were thinking. It seems that General Kizaru has never killed anyone. However, rebuttal soon appeared in the crowd. What are you kidding? Beat someone to death. Can you take a look at General Kizaru's opponents? Pluton Rayleigh, the new 5th Emperor Luffy. How is it possible that this can be beaten to death? Yes. Soon, rebuttals appeared in the crowd. Several times after encountering the Straw Hat Pirates. At Impel Down, General Kizaru didn't seem to let his guard down when facing Luffy. Along with the discussion in the pirate world, the video on the giant screen continued to play. I'm afraid many people have forgotten that this ordinary office worker in Shanyu has a past that no one dares to ignore. At 26, Kizaru and Akainu joined Marine at the same time and became the first students of the Black Hand Zephyr. It has just been 6 years since the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, and young Kizaru chose Marine's side at a turning point in history. Marine Headquarters. Ma Linfanduo, Kizaru looked up at the picture of himself when he was young. My thoughts can't help but be brought back to that era. At the same time, two figures appeared behind Kizaru at the same time. Akainu. Aokiji. The two stood behind Kizaru, seeming to want to control Kizaru. When they first arrived, Kizaru and Akainu were called monsters by the world because of their outstanding performance. Akainu's ruthlessness was fully demonstrated in the subsequent O'Hara incident. And Kizaru, who was able to stand alongside him back then, must not be an ordinary person either. Kizaru is the one who doesn't get along the most with teacher Zephyr among the many students. It's a matter of personality, and it's also a conflict of ideas. Kizaru has a vague concept of justice. And Black Arm's law is to hate evil as much as hatred. Marlene is abundant. Akainu, who is standing behind Kizaru, was also staring at the giant screen, but there was no change in his expression. Those memories are for Akainu. Dispensable. Nowadays, Akainu's face shows more vicissitudes and paranoia. If there is anyone in the world who wants to kill Straw Hat Luffy the most, it must be Akainu. Kizaru, come with us to accept the investigation. Aokiji said softly, looking at Kizaru's back. On the eve of the Battle of Atvol, Kizaru has become a subordinate of the Warring States period. Kizaru, wearing a coat of justice, watched Garp board the ship and leave, already looking a bit lazy. Times are always changing. This is Roger's era. Kings rise and then fall. The world is always in turmoil. But what does this have to do with office workers? Hiss. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and couldn't help but sigh in agreement. Office worker. Yes. The world is changing rapidly. As long as I am a simple office worker, what does it have to do with me? Everyone stared at the picture on the giant screen, waiting for the continued exposure of Kizaru. As Garp said, if you want to be free, you don't need such a high status. Until the advent of the Great Pirate Age, Kizaru had restrained his sharp edge. No one knew what he was pursuing. In the tide of the times, Kizaru has been watching with cold eyes. Ha 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 ha. Garp looked up at the introduction about Kizaru on the giant screen, and couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth slightly. Sure enough, no wonder he was said to be Luffy's second uncle before. This realization is really like me. But after all, I have been in the army for almost 20 years. With excellent strength and strong strength, Kizaru has been promoted all the way. When Kizaru was chasing the Sun Pirates, he was already one of the lieutenant generals of the headquarters. He sent Katalu to investigate the whereabouts of the Sun Pirates, but Katalu launched a reckless attack, and eventually the entire army was destroyed. Originally, Kizaru didn't pay much attention to the pursuit, but now he lamented that the fighting power of the fishmen was really terrible, and asked his subordinates for information about the Sun Pirates. But in the subsequent actions, Kizaru himself did not participate. He has always had an attitude towards the mission that success is the best and failure is the best thing. In the end, the seriously injured Captain Tiger refused blood transfusion because he hated human blood, and eventually died of excessive blood loss. Porosalino is not as indifferent as he seems. Kizaru personally protected the village, and as expected, the evil dragon came to take revenge. Kizaru raised his hand and shot down the dragon, easily subduing the furious fishman. When Kizaru asked about Fisher Tiger's death from the dragon's mouth, he was a little surprised. He never thought that Tiger would die. After imprisoning the evil dragon in Jules' prison during the ambush, he seemed to have lost interest in the matter. The Sun Pirates have not been disbanded. Keisha Jinbei has taken over the captain's banner, and Major General Stoloberg even came to explain to Kizaru how extraordinary Jinbei is. Kizaru tilted his head and looked at the plaque on the wall, which read the ambiguous words justice. Kizaru didn't know which justice to choose. Kizaru seems to be struggling with something in his heart. The conflict between fish and humans has been going on for a long time, and it is not a problem that can be easily solved. Kizaru has already done a lot, organizing ambushes and protecting the village. Even if Jinbei is killed, a new captain will appear. When will the eradication work of Kizaru be completed? It's really troublesome just thinking about it. So Jinbei also received an invitation to be a Shichibukai soon. This opportunity can bring liberation and freedom to the fish people. Kizaru has no reason to reject the fish people and the world government. The war for many years has since calmed down, and Kizaru's promotion is indispensable behind this. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen. It's as if I've been involved in it, feeling Kizaru's decision. Which side of justice should you choose? Is black and white really that distinct? General Kizaru. I seem to understand General Kizaru. Yes. Looking at it this way, it's impossible for General Kizaru to be an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army. Marine Headquarters. Kizaru walks at the forefront of Akainu and Aokiji. Step by step towards the Fleet Admiral room. Akainu's eyes were filled with disdain and even a bit of disgust. But Aokiji's eyes were mixed with a little understanding and ambiguous justice. It seemed that Aokiji had chosen this way. When he let Robin go, Aokiji may have faced an extremely difficult choice. 10 years have passed in a flash. During this period, Kizaru was promoted to general and was responsible for commanding the Marine Science Force. This is a top-secret organization with scientist Vegapunk as its core. It provides the government with countless combat capabilities and technical support. Being able to control such an organization shows the world government's trust in Kizaru. Everyone stared at Kizaru's introduction on the giant screen and couldn't help but be surprised. Vegapunk. The scientist. Is he the man who claims to have the best brain in the world? The man who transcended this world for 500 years? Soon, someone in the crowd made their own remarks. I'll tell you. World government, Marine must be hiding an ulterior secret weapon. However, there are also many people who say bad things. What can one scientist do? Look at the sea today. The 5 emperors stand in tripod. Bullet, Red Earl, Vardy, and recently Buggy, a clown known as a red-haired gay man, are about to make a move in the new world. There is even a reward for killing the government, pirate soldiers, and high-ranking generals. The world is in complete chaos. The government and Marine are powerless, and it is not something that a mere scientist can change. As everyone discussed, the picture on the giant screen continued to flicker. Sabayati Land Islands. Kizaru and Sengoku drank tea in Marijoa and prepared for the subsequent war on the summit. When the news came that Luffy beat up the celestial dragon, Sengoku had a headache for a while. The main character that Marine is currently planning is Fire Fist Ace, and the subsequent war that may break out. This is a major event that can change the world structure, so Marine really doesn't want to cause trouble. But the matter involves the celestial dragons, and someone must come forward to represent Marine's position. Kizaru took the initiative to ask Ying to go and deal with the matter. Kizaru asked Sengoku to feel relieved, and then set off for the Sabayati Islands. The warship came through the waves. The pirates on the island heard the news. Kizaru stepped on the cannonball and took the lead. The dazzling light was accompanied by a violent explosion, which scared the pirates and ran around with their heads in their hands. Here we go. It's about to begin. The peak moment of General Kizaru's combat power. Kick a supernova. I'm so scared on my lips, but I'm so afraid of you. Everyone stared excitedly at the picture on the giant screen, not wanting to be distracted for a moment. Kizaru wanted to contact Zan, but he took out his phone bug. He couldn't get a response for a while, but there happened to be an unknown pirate nearby who attacked him. Kizaru used the pretext of asking for directions to kick down the Yarchman mangrove tree and show off his arrival to the supernova on the island. Show off. Remember, it's about showing off. Fight Pluton Rayleigh. Straw Hat Luffy doesn't have that level. Isn't it easy to use supernovas? Then you can't show off your abilities. Ha 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 ha. I'm laughing so hard. Show off your abilities. As expected of General Kizaru. Actually, the best result is that this mission returns without success. There are shadows of 4 emperors in the supernova. There are government undercover agents. There are even newcomers like Straw Hat Luffy who interact with Marines and revolutionaries at the same time. Now is really not a good time to liquidate. Pirate. How can you become a pirate without any background? Who says it's not? You can't even be a pirate now without any background. Everyone stared at the giant screen and complained, and some of them began to sympathize with Kizaru. Who says it's not? They are all a group of second-generation ancestors. If I were Kizaru, I would fish too. The picture on the giant screen continued to flash under the sympathy of everyone. Kizaru is an old marine who has experienced the era of Rox and Roger. Kizaru's trip is more to meet new people and have fun. This is why Hawkins can calmly believe that his fate has been decided and there is no need to panic. As for the battle with the supernova, as Kizaru himself said, it's just more leisurely. When the 4 supernovas showed off their strength one by one, Apu attacked Kizaru unexpectedly and cut him in half. After recovering, Kizaru felt like he had lost face, so he became a little more serious and kicked a supernova, showing his terrifying strength. Hiss. As expected of General Marine. Everyone in the pirate world couldn't help but feel excited while staring at the giant screen, just like watching a cool drama about pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Look at the new guy. Have fun. Relatively leisurely. Be a little more serious. Just kick a supernova. Fear. It's absolutely terrifying. Just when Kizaru was hesitating whether to deal with Hawkins on the spot, Zan Momomaru sent a communication asking for Kizaru's location. Kizaru took advantage of the situation and let Hawkins go. In a sense, justice and evil never exist independently. It is precisely because of the emergence of successive pirates that Marine can continue to develop. When seeking for his position, a general is already at the pinnacle of being an executor and a tool. After that, he is a fleet admiral who must think twice before and after. Fart. This is just fart. Akainu, who was following Kizaru, bit the cigar in his mouth and shouted angrily in a deep voice, with the emergence of pirates, Marine can continue to develop. Our Marine's mission is to eradicate all Marines. Marlene is abundant. On a warship about to leave. Without pirates, there would be no Marine. Sengoku, who was wearing a white shirt, his hair was obviously a bit white, and he kept muttering repeatedly, without pirates, there would be no Marine, ha 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 ha. He couldn't help but let out bursts of chuckles. There is really no need for Kizaru to kill the newcomers. Only do what is necessary in everything, as long as you contribute a little bit. With this idea in mind, Kizaru's road to releasing water begins from here. After. Kizaru rushes to the amusement park to meet up with Zantuan. The Straw Hats, the main culprits of the Draco incident, happen to be here. Originally, everyone had made up their mind to escape separately, but Kizaru took action and left Zoro behind, so everyone had to step forward to stop him. Everyone in the pirate world seems to have had an emergency response to Straw Hat Luffy. As long as Luffy is around, you know there will be big news. Dragon Incident. This was played in the previous video, when Luffy killed the Celestial Dragon. The second generation ancestor is just different, he doesn't even give the Tianlong people face. Who says it's not the case? I think the monkey family is different. I feel like the largest family. Yeah, much tougher than some celestial dragons. Kizaru pretended to kill Zoro, but he didn't do it. Until Rayleigh stood in front of Kizaru, he first teased Rayleigh about his identity as a pirate. Then Kizaru admitted that he only took action to save the government's face. Hiss. I have to say, I spent the whole day studying with General Kizaru. I learned another trick to catch fish. Actually, you can't blame General Kizaru. If it were anyone else, I'm afraid he wouldn't want to offend today's wealthy family, the monkey family. It's hard to say. It's definitely hard to say. There is one person who definitely does. The crowd couldn't help holding their chins, and after a long time they murmured, General Akainu. Bingo, absolutely correct. Along with everyone's discussion, the giant screen in midair continued to play. Seeing the lightsaber battle is about to happen. Rayleigh said something intriguing, life is full of confusion. Although Kizaru says that the Amankongan sword has been unsheathed, Kizaru's will to fight is not strong. Kizaru had a slight upper hand in the battle with Rayleigh and was in no rush to decide the winner. After a few moves, both Kizaru and Rayleigh stopped. The bear's intervention brought this battle to an end. Exposed. Marine Headquarters. Malinvando. Kizaru was followed by Akainu and Aokiji. Akainu was biting the cigar in his mouth and staring at Kizaru in front of him with an indignant face. Apparently, Akainu would even try to get a hold of Kizaru if he could. Akainu, who upholds absolute justice, cannot accept this kind of behavior. Aokiji, on the other hand, has a face full of indifference. For Aokiji, he is also looking for what is true justice. In the afterglow of the setting sun, the bear, knowing that his end was approaching, shot all the straw hats away. It's rare for Kizaru to be serious for once. Kizaru must think of how to explain. This is a serious problem. Fishing is always an artistic endeavor. If it looks too much like an act, the secret will be revealed easily. If it's too real, I'll be too tired. In the end, this incident ended with Kizaru capturing 500 pirates, and all the supernovas escaped. Learned. Everyone in the pirate world said they learned it. It's fishing in troubled waters. 500 pirates, this is indeed a good deal. Yes, this will make it easier to step down, and it will give the headquarters a reason to communicate. If you love learning, continue quickly. I will be a professional fisherman in the future. All the office workers couldn't help but stare at the giant screen. What if Kaido was a famous taijutsu master? That. Kizaru. A true master of fishing. They all opened their eyes wide, unable to miss a single thing. And the giant screen did not disappoint them. Ace's execution day will soon come. Kizaru obeys the call. Kizaru and the other two generals fought under the execution platform. The New World pirates led by the Whitebeard pirates have indeed broken in. When Aokiji took action to freeze the huge waves caused by Whitebeard, the entire bay became the most brutal battlefield. Although 100,000 marine elites are gathered here, I have to say that the pirates are really powerful. Just after the fight, the New World pirates gained a lot of advantages. Kizaru thought, if I watch the show again, it will be a bit unreasonable. Ha 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 ha. The second way to catch a fish is to give yourself something to do. Even if you don't have any work, you have to pretend to be busy. Otherwise, wouldn't it be easy for the boss to find out? Kizaru finished speaking lazily. I sigh deeply in my heart. There is no other way. With salary and people under the roof, I have to take action. In desperation, Kizaru had to join the battlefield. Kizaru thought, to capture the thief first, capture the king, I'd better fight with Whitebeard first. It depends on me. Kizaru's move, the 8-foot Magatama, was aimed directly at Whitebeard, but was blocked by Marco, the Phoenix. Even on such a battlefield that determines the fate of the world, Kizaru still perseveres in paddling to the end. Kizaru has room for his moves, and the fight with Marco is back and forth. When Straw Hat Luffy appeared on the battlefield, Kizaru even absent-mindedly joked with Sengoku. Ha 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 ha. You are truly worthy of General Kizaru, a master of fishing. It's a 50-50 split with everyone. Marinvando. Everyone in Whitebeard's camp covered Luffy and rushed towards the execution platform, but Kizaru pulled away to stop him. Kizaru, if I don't catch you, the celestial dragons will come to bother me every day. At this moment, Kizaru still has to think about fishing. What he fears most is that others will bother him alone. But a fish master must still be a fish master. But even so, Kizaru still used the regular light speed kick. With Ivankov's help, Luffy escaped the explosion. All of a sudden, everyone in the pirate world stared at the giant screen and started talking again. Release the water, General Kizaru, is this a proper release of water? Yes. Straw Hat Luffy probably hadn't awakened the sun god Nika form at that time. Didn't General Kizaru just kill him instantly? Who can't say? But if you don't fish, General Kizaru might not be a fish master. When the earth fissures, the mountains and rivers are shaken. Kizaru and other generals worked together to deflect Whitebeard's shock and prevent the execution platform from being destroyed. Make the point. Here comes the point. Luffy finally rushed to the three of them. Luffy, Garp's grandson, has such a strong background, how should we deal with it? Soon. Kizaru has his own answer. Kizaru kicked Luffy into Whitebeard's hands, and even taught Luffy a lesson. If you don't have the power, no matter how hard you try to save something, there will be no result. Of course, this is also the most exaggerated time that Kizaru has released water. Garp is kind to many Marines, and Kizaru is no exception. Garp is watching from behind at this time. Kizaru really doesn't want to kill someone else's grandson in front of him. Not to mention that Luffy is the son of the revolutionary dragon, he doesn't want to be the target of public criticism. This is also Kizaru's usual approach. I have already kicked him out. I don't know whether he is dead or not. Hiss. MD. Learned again. The second tip in the workplace. Put the blame away. You must not be able to take responsibility and kick the ball. While everyone in the pirate world shouted that they had learned something, the picture on the giant screen continued to flash. Kizaru defeated Marco, who was distracted by Whitebeard's injury in the subsequent battle. Kizaru continued to chase Luffy. Whitebeard slashed him with his sword, and Kizaru instantly used elemental dissolution to neutralize him. Garp, who couldn't bear to take action, was punched away by Kizaru, and the two brothers reunited on the stage. Kizaru showed us a very precise attack. Kizaru blasted the key in Luffy's hand with a laser, confirming the fact that he had been paddling. Wow 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 wow. General Kizaru, this is indeed a bit fishy, isn't it? Yeah. If it can hit the key, then it must be able to hit Luffy directly, right? Who says it isn't? Luffy rescued Ace in the end. The situation on the battlefield was changing rapidly. The Marine side made more adequate preparations and managed to have the last laugh. Ace died under Akainu's fist after all. Dead. Ace is dead. It seems that the ending has changed now. Yes, the emergence of the giant screen has changed the whole world. New world. Aboard Moby. Whitebeard stood at the front of the deck, pouring liquor into his mouth, looking up at the giant screen. Standing next to me is a redhead who is also a member of the Four Emperors. Whitebeard, what kind of power does this giant screen contain? It allows Luffy to directly awaken his Nika form. Can Rayleigh and you regain their peak fighting power? Whitebeard also shook his head slowly in confusion, but soon he laughed heartily and said, "Gu la 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 la." Whitebeard turned around and looked at Ace, Marco and others who were having a banquet. No matter what it is, I have to thank it for allowing me to spend more time with my sons. Shanks was slightly shaken, hesitated for a moment, looked directly into Whitebeard's eyes and asked, "Whitebeard, do you really not want to be One Piece?" Whitebeard was stunned for a moment, then quickly shook his head and said, "I have long since lost my heart for hegemony. The sea belongs to you young people." During the conversation between the red hair and the white beard, the video on the giant screen continued to play. In the battlefield filled with smoke, Blackbeard suddenly appeared with a brand new team. And successfully stole the power of the shock fruit after Whitebeard's death. An era has come to an end, and the next era of chaos is about to come. Sabayati Islands. Holy place. Outside a room. Blackbeard's eyes were full of bloodshot eyes, staring at the giant screen. Your own plan. The plans that have been dormant for many years are now shattered. Not only did he not have the ability to obtain the Junjun fruit, but he also became a street rat that everyone around the world wanted to beat. Even, he, Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach, became the tool of the Draco. Behind you. The room was filled with wailing and begging for mercy. Let me go. Please let me go, I didn't break the law. Blackbeard's eyes flashed fiercely, and then he opened the door to the room. Inside the room, there are all kinds of people. Pirates. Ordinary people. Soldier. There is even a marine general. Now, they are all imprisoned in this dark room. The only thing they have in common is that they are all capable. They are all devil fruit users. But Blackbeard has become a tool man of the marine government, an ant who only wants to plunder the fruit power for them. And now, a more intense war is inevitable. Kizaru fought and ran away, but found Buggy carrying the unconscious Luffy. Buggy was frightened by Kizaru and handed Luffy and Jinbei over to Luo. Just when Kizaru was about to launch his attack, the entire battlefield stopped for a moment amid Kebi's screams. For Kizaru, 8 trigrams is indispensable, especially during work. Kizaru couldn't help but get into a show-watching state. The words on the giant screen caused widespread resonance in the entire pirate world, and everyone stared at the giant screen in unparalleled approval. Agree. I couldn't agree more. Eating melon during work is definitely the most enjoyable. On this point, I stand with General Kizaru. The next moment, the red-haired pirates arrive uninvited. I'm here to end this war. When the red hair looked down at the audience, people calmed down. On the contrary, Aokiji and Kizaru, 2 generals who did not try their best, launched attacks on Luo's submarine one after another. Thousands of light points of the 8-foot jade shot into the seabed, shattering the ice into pieces. It looks very impressive, but it actually creates opportunities for the pirates to leave. Kizaru's precise attacks that could break keys before have now turned into overwhelming strokes. Hiss. I feel it personally. General Kizaru is a little too pretentious this time. Everyone in the pirate world stared at the picture on the giant screen and looked at Kizaru's strokes. They all shook their heads and said, "It's bad, General Kizaru's fishing is really going to be exposed now." Marlene is abundant. In a room, Akainu and Aokiji stood on opposite sides of Kizaru. What else do you have to explain? Akainu bit the cigar in his mouth and stared at Kizaru. As a general, don't you have any sense of shame? Kizaru looked as if nothing had happened, and leisurely took out a nail clipper from his trouser pocket in front of the aggressive Akainu. Cut it. Grind left, grind right. So uncomfortable. Porosalino, what's your attitude? Akainu immediately went berserk upon seeing this. Why did he work so hard on the entire battlefield? Do you just do your best? Kizaru just raised his head and glanced lazily at Akainu, then lowered his head and continued his own manicure work. Not even a word was said. If they are still alive like this, it can only mean that they are very lucky. Kizaru stood on the sail, looking far away in the direction where the pirates left, and skillfully found the steps for the Marines. It not only gives the redhead some face, but also protects Marine's face. Even Akainu, who has gone crazy, has nothing to say. After the Warring States period declared an armistice, this vigorous war finally came to an end. This war is far more tragic than imagined. If the red hair hadn't come to mediate, I really don't know what would have happened. After this battle, New World has broken the balance because of Whitebeard's death. The severely damaged Marine side has also undergone tremendous changes, and the Marine headquarters has been moved to the entrance of New World. Fleet Admiral Sengoku resigns. Akainu successfully ascended to power after experiencing the Fleet Admiral battle. Marine headquarters. Marlene is abundant. The world has not developed according to the plot, and today's Marine headquarters is still in Marine. The soldiers who were engaged in repair work looked up at the giant screen and murmured in disbelief. Sengoku Fleet Admiral has resigned. A warship has sailed away from Marin. Warring States looked up at the giant screen, especially after seeing himself resigning as Fleet Admiral. He couldn't help but sigh softly. Sure enough, it's just as I imagined. No matter whether I win or lose, retiring from Fleet Admiral will be my destination. But, is the new Fleet Admiral Akainu? Alas. Warring States sighed helplessly. Me. Akainu looked up at the giant screen and almost dropped the cigar in his mouth. I became Fleet Admiral. When I woke up, I became a Fleet Admiral. Kizaru couldn't help but look at Akainu, looking like he needed a beating. Hey, haha, congratulations. Aokiji said nothing. Everyone in the pirate world. Sengoku, has Sengoku Fleet Admiral resigned? The new Fleet Admiral is General Akainu. Everyone stared at the giant screen in midair, and couldn't help but be full of surprise. Among them, there are inevitably some right-wingers who support Akainu. General Akainu will definitely be able to give the pirates a heavy blow. But there are also some leftists. If Admiral Akainu becomes Fleet Admiral, it will definitely be full of smoke. Who would have thought that the next news would be even more shocking? Whitebeard 2 and Buggy become Shichibukai. Zephyr and Aokiji left Marine one after another. Everyone. Ordinary people. Marine. Soldier. General. Even some Tianlong people stared at the giant screen in shock, and couldn't help but murmur to themselves. Zephyr, Chief Zephyr also left the Marine headquarters. Aokiji, General Aokiji has also resigned from the Marine headquarters. Then where should Marine headquarters go from here? Everyone could only stare at the giant screen. And in this turbulent situation, Kizaru fell silent. 2 years later, Zephyr formed the Neo Marine to steal the explosive salt and destroy the New World. Kizaru was ordered to come and stop us. Shock. Even more shocked. Especially Zephyr himself. Zephyr raised his head and stared at the giant screen, and kept muttering, Whitebeard 2. Become the 7 warlords of the sea. Just looking at the giant screen, Zephyr could feel his internal organs being shattered. A figure appeared in Zephyr's mind. Really, is this true? After a long while, Zephyr stared at the giant screen and said solemnly, if such a day comes, I will still quit Marine. Betrayal, this is equivalent to being betrayed by the entire Marine and its own justice. Zephyr naturally couldn't bear it. We haven't seen each other for many years. Zephyr mocked Kizaru for relying too much on fruit abilities. Kizaru, who was always indifferent, then drew his lightsaber angrily. Everyone knows that their teachers and students are at odds with each other, but in terms of not killing, Kizaru is very similar to his former teacher Zephyr. He let almost everyone go. The minions who attacked Kizaru, the supernova who only attacked but never killed, and Luffy and others who let go many times. Even when fighting Whitebeard and Marco, he didn't even draw his sword. Zephyr and Kizaru fought for dozens of rounds in an instant, and they were completely defeated in terms of physical strength. However, from the moment Zephyr left Marine, he was already prepared to die. The explosive was thrown by Zephyr with his bare hands, and Kizaru, who was always calm, showed a solemn expression on his face. But this can't hurt Kizaru's speed beyond the limit. Swords against each other. Everyone in the headquarters looked up and stared at the giant screen, watching the battle scene between Kizaru and Zephyr on the screen. Everyone barely knows what to say. No one would have thought that Kizaru, as a Marine general, would fight against Commander Zephyr. And it's a life and death battle. Everyone could only stare at the giant screen, waiting for the outcome of the battle. With the precision shown by Kizaru in the battle, Kizaru's strength is far more unfathomable than the outside world imagines. Kizaru stood in the distance and looked at the soaring fire, feeling like he was being tricked by teacher Zephyr. In order to end the entire era of great pirates, Zephyr's plan is proceeding in an orderly manner. In the end, we faced the decisive battle with Luffy, and found our original intention in the battle. Zephyr was lying on the hot ground, panting hard, lamenting that he was old, heroes were dying, and happy times always fleeting. The belated Kizaru came with many Marines to end everything. Zephyr walks to death alone, and the students have no intention of leaving alive. Dead. Did General Zephyr die in Marine's hands? This person who dedicated everything to Marine, ended up with Marine as well. Everyone can't help but feel full of sadness. Even some Marine soldiers, generals, and those who had received Zephyr's guidance could not help but have tears in their eyes, staring at Zephyr's figure on the giant screen. Naturally including Aokiji. But for some reason, Kizaru looked up at the giant screen, and there was a slight wave of emotion on his otherwise calm face. However, when Aokiji's ice wall blocks the valley, Kizaru couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Is that guy here too? This is already the last goodbye. Many lieutenant generals shed tears on the spot. Kizaru used his full strength for the first time, which is his last show of respect for the teacher. Countless light points shot out from Kizaru's hand and penetrated the body of teacher Zephyr. This is the true appearance of the 8-foot Magatama. Even though his heart is filled with turmoil, there is no expression on Kizaru's face. Farewell, teacher Zephyr. Teacher Zephyr. Marlene is abundant. In the square, many soldiers and generals could not help but shed tears. Even Garp, he looked up at the giant screen in confusion. Zephyr. Is their old friend going to face this kind of end? On a warship on the Grand Line. Zephyr stood at the front of the deck, looked up at the giant screen, and fell into emotion for a moment. Unexpectedly, he actually died in the hands of Kizaru in the end. When the monsters in New World are ready to move, Kizaru, who is afraid of trouble, has no plan to enter the game. Whitebeard too has been in constant conflict with the captains under Whitebeard's command, and has drawn countless towns into the flames of war. This information is being sent to Kizaru continuously. Kizaru just cut his nails and didn't want to interfere. The ambiguous justice is still hanging behind him, reminding him at all times to maintain the mentality of a melon eater. Kizaru commented that Whitebeard too is at least very similar to the young Whitebeard in terms of strength, but that's all. New World. Whitebeard too. Dad, who is this Whitebeard too? Dad, isn't he your illegitimate son? Ace, Marco and others leaned around Whitebeard and drank strong drinks in a cheerful atmosphere, and some of them even made jokes at Whitebeard. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard poured a large glass of wine into his mouth and laughed heartily. Only you are my sons. Then, Whitebeard slammed the barrel onto the deck, stood up, and held Kong Yunchi tightly in his hands. Sons, listen up. Marshal D. Teach, Whitebeard too. These two people will be the enemies of our Whitebeard pirates. In the blink of an eye, we are here during the World Conference. While Akainu was furious, Kizaru continued to stay at the headquarters, leisurely watching the busy Akainu. Unknowingly, Luffy has become the 5th Emperor of the Sea with a bounty of 1.5 billion. Akainu regretted not continuing the fight. Kizaru didn't refute, he just stared at the sea in the distance in a daze. Kizaru suddenly had a bad taste, so he just didn't go out. He kept irritating Akainu with this matter. I think Kizaru must have been laughing in his heart. This happiness did not last long. Big Mom and Kaido joined forces and a huge storm was coming. To stop them, the only way to stop them was the 7 warlords of the sea or the generals. However, the abolition of 7 warlords of the sea is a foregone conclusion. Green Bull Fujitora is sitting in Marijoa, and the only current general who can take action is Kizaru. The situation involving the former overlord Rox has become extremely serious. Kizaru asked Akainu to go to Wano country. He is obviously confident that one person can contain the 4 emperors. But the strength of the samurai cannot be underestimated. The terrain of Wano makes it impossible for marines to enter on a large scale. Even if Kizaru encounters too many sieges, it will be difficult to escape. Akainu temporarily rejects Kizaru's request. Everyone in the pirate world looked up and stared at the giant screen, and couldn't help but marveled. I have to say it. General Kizaru is still a man of great wisdom. Who says it's not? How about being a thankless fleet admiral? Why not be a general who gets paid every day and fishes happily? If it were me, I would rather choose to be a general who fishes for fish. Under the admiration of everyone, the picture on the giant screen continued to play. From the Sabayati Islands to the present, the theory that Kizaru is an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army has always existed, and Ryu seems to have been a member of Marine. The pasts of Ryu and Kizaru must intersect. And it's very possible that Kizaru is the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Teacher Zephyr taught them to carry out their beliefs to the end. Akainu has always insisted on absolute justice, and Aokiji has found his own path in the long wandering. Kizaru turned the ambiguous hesitation into his own attitude. A person's role in history is extremely limited. In the end, he cannot resist the flow of fate. Isn't it good to take it calmly? Kizaru is definitely the smoothest one in Marine. The world of spectators, going to unknown distances. The world that watches. Hiss. Feeling is the adjective that best suits General Kizaru. Thanks for watching.